Exes? Check. High school? Check. Pop idol feuds? Check. Her boyfriend's dick? Check. You what? Hello and welcome back. You're with me, Icy Snaps, and today, yes, we are reviewing the one, the only Taylor Swift with her new album, The Life of a Showgirl. I've reviewed Taylor Swift before with an average reaction to her Tortured Poets department. It was a long album with plenty of songs feeling like filler. A mixed bag of up and down. Some songs weren't that bad, but mostly quite generic, with lyrics that felt stuck at a certain age and often slightly concerning. So I guess the question is, does Taylor Swift pick things up a bit with her new album? I want to say not really. Spoiler alert, thank you for watching. No, but honestly, you'd expect an album produced by Max Martin with an endless budget to be kind of good, right? Something quite spectacular even. I feel like this was Taylor's chance to do something she wanted with as much resources as she possibly can. Instead, what you get is something that could have been made by anyone in the pop sphere. I say all of that, I mean, it's well mixed and produced, but honestly, it's quite bland. The lead up to the album, I thought we might see something that slightly mirrored the album covers. Something big, showgirl, you know, spectacular. But now, having listened to the album, it's clear that it was a bit of an afterthought. In terms of songwriting, it's a bit hit and miss, which is a shame because we know Taylor can really write some bangers. Things that are written well here are overshadowed by things that come across as slightly awkward. The opening track, Fate of Ophelia, using the Shakespeare character to represent herself. It's a bit of a weird comparison, like it's not totally off the mark, but I don't think it hits quite right. Ophelia drowns because she's always subjected to the rule and control of men, never giving her a voice, being used, which ends up driving her mad, and, you know, she ends up drowning. But here, Ophelia, or, you know, Taylor, is saved by a man. I don't know, it's an odd comparison. Maybe I'm looking a little too deep, who knows. Even with this odd comparison, it's still one of the better songs on the album, and like a pretty decent opener, I think. The bass has this really nice spring to it. I mean, the drums overall throughout the album could be a bit more like full and heavy, but it's okay. Moving on to Elizabeth Taylor, Taylor Swift. Clever. Again, another one of the better tracks on the album, where Taylor draws similarities to the past actor's life and her own. And when that beat drops on the chorus, it's pretty heavy, I have to admit. I quite like it. And those cheeky lines of "just kidding," after how you'd trade your Cartier for someone to trust. It's a bit of fun, but it has some nice instrumentation. Pretty decent, I would say, but I don't think the album really picks up much from here. Starting with Opalite, which is a bit of a love song, and obviously a reference to Travis Kelce. Sounds a bit like a slower version of Dominoes by Jessie J, but we do get some nice vocals from Taylor in this track. Overall, though, it's very slow, and by the end of the track, I've kind of forgotten it. Right after this, with Father Figure, and for a moment I thought I was listening to some Dizzy Rascal, Fix Up Look Sharp, but no, they've just sampled the same song. Big Beat by Billy Squier, I think. Got that big beat. Sorry. But yeah, I quite like the music overall in this song. It's that contrast of like sharp percussion and soft instrumental, which works really well, adding like a contrast. In terms of lyrics, I quite like it too. I guess it's like a bit of a switching of perceived gender roles, taking on this like godfather position to someone who I'm not sure who she's singing about. But, you know, referencing getting her masters back, taking control, essentially, I think. One criticism I will have about Taylor's lyrics is they're so specific that sometimes, like, I'm just not there. The next couple of songs are okay again. There's nothing really to them. Lyrically and musically, they're fine, I guess, if not a little bit stale. Ruin the Friendship and Eldest Daughter. Eldest Daughter is kind of sweet, you know, coming around to the idea of marriage. It's quite a nice personal song. Ruin the Friendship is a little bit odd though, I will say. Reminiscing about a high school crush, I assume, and how you should have kissed, but, you know, the timing was never right, and now they're dead. I mean, it's actually not that bad. It's kind of funny and sweet in like a bit of an odd way. No crush or ex escapes from Taylor's pen. Okay, now onto a bit of drama with Actually Romantic, which is apparently taking shots at Charlie XCX, which I think is quite obvious in the opening line anyway. I heard you call me boring Barbie when the coke gets you brave. Look, I'm not really sure how much Sympathy is a Knife was a diss at Taylor Swift. I kind of remember Charlie singing about how insecure she felt around Taylor because of how she was, how big she is, and, you know, all these other things. Admittedly, I still much prefer Charlie's music than Taylor's. I know it's trying to have a bit of like a pop punk edge with those guitars and things, but it actually comes across sounding a little bit thin, and I just think Max Martin could have done so much more here. The next song as well, Wishlist, overall it's quite dreamy, it's very nice and smooth. Again, it does feel a little bit thin again musically, but I think it works on this track more. Everything does get a little bit lost behind the reverb, though that synth melody is quite sweet and nice. Remember when I mentioned her fiance's dick? Well, the song Wood makes a not so subtle reference to that apparent beast. Ew. Set to the intro of I Want You Back by the Jackson 5, which makes it so much more bizarre. Sabrina Carpenter does these like cheeky innuendos, having a bit of fun, you know, a bit sexy, whatever. It plays into her character, and it's not necessarily about anyone, but when Taylor does it, it's so awkward because we all know who this person is, and she wants to be kind of like flirty and cheeky, but she kind of comes across as a bit bored. I don't know. It's a bit of an odd song. Maybe leave that one out next time. Bored is kind of a good way to describe how I'm feeling at this point in the album. Nothing's standing out to me. I thought there would be a bit more of an artistic growth going on, but it feels like she's playing it a bit safe, a bit of fanfare, keeping it kind of generic, not really wanting to take any risks. I mean, take for example the song Honey. Cancelled, though, I will say, tries to take it a bit further, and it does feel like one of the better produced albums on the record. It's, you know, a bit more full, there's more going on, there's quite dynamic, it's a little bit darker and all this, but again, it kind of just stays the same throughout, relying on Taylor's vocals, which are feeling a bit meh. I'm not really even sure who she's talking about here. I'm not that well versed in the music drama, so I can't really say. Which brings us on to the final track, The Life of a Showgirl, featuring Sabrina Carpenter, which is a bit more of a fun, theatrical song. I think the inclusion of Sabrina here was much needed, and it's starting to sound a little more like something I'm expecting to hear from that album cover. Even so, it's okay. It's more upbeat and it's more fun, you know. It's still a little bit derivative of other songs from the noughties, 90s. I can see myself listening back to that and enjoying it more. So, overall, The Life of a Showgirl. I think it does bring a little bit more than her previous album, The Tortured Poets Department. You know, it's not like a bad album, but it's also kind of safe and awkward, and honestly a little bit forgettable. There are a few tracks here where we see the writer and performer that we know Taylor is, but it feels like it's just going through the motions, wrapped in a bit of a glitzy package. For someone who has all the resources seemingly in the world, this should have been the moment to really push the boat out and create something that's truly unforgettable. Instead, it's just more of the same. If you really love Taylor Swift, I think you're gonna like a lot on this album, and that's okay. Like, it's not bad. But I think if you're wanting a little bit more from Taylor, this is gonna leave you a little bit deflated. Next album. Either way, I would give this album a 5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought down below. I love to know what you think, and I try to reply to all my comments, so yeah, please feel free to do that, and hopefully catch you on the next one. Goodbye.